now it's an honor on behalf of the people of the Protectorate of Albania to give the floor to the Italian Prime Minister and Protector of our country, Giorgia Meloni.
Dear colleagues, good morning everyone, and let me say thanks to Eddie, not for being a protectorate, but for his warm hospitality in the summit, and also for making me feel very young again with that video he showed in the inauguration. And I want also to congratulate Eddie for his absolutely unexpected re-election as the leader here of the Albanian government. I'm happy that Europe will continue to count on his spirit and his determination. Albania is hosting the European political community for the first time. I value it as particularly significant, not only for this nation, but for all of us. I have always considered the European identity as fact, established by history even before geography. A concept harder to enclose in a definition than to understand by impulse. Albania is, of course, Europe, just like Italy or Serbia or Norway, regardless of whether they are part of this or that organization. That is why it always makes me smile when someone attempts to claim the right to decide who's European and who's not. Among the states that are around this table today, several have decided not to join the EU, others aspire to be part of it. Both are no less European than the 27 EU member states. Yet the EU is today the Sunday's comment home to achieve what I like to call the European reunification, attained amongst people who may differ from one another, and yet they are a part of one whole, like the different fingers of a hand. Peoples who have fought each other over the centuries, yet are in reality one single people. Also, for this reason, being here today means taking a step forward in the historic process of reunifying Europe, because if we really want to build a new Europe in a new world, we cannot imagine doing so without the Western Balkans, without their peoples, without their identities and historical backgrounds. Western Balkans do not lie on Europe's finger or beyond our continent. They are in the very heart of our continent. They are the bridge region between the East and the West, between what St. John Paul II liked to call the two lungs of Europe. For this reason, Italy is committed in Brussels to asserting a strategic approach to the Western Balkans to take into due account, despite the complex challenges posed by the region, the need to provide these countries with a clear EU integration perspective. Of course, enlargement involves new challenges, but I'm convinced that the European integration of Western Balkans, as well as towards the East, is also a strategic investment on Europe's own security, even more so in light of what is happening on our borders. We live in an extremely interconnected world. Our destiny's interdependence is fact. What happens on Europeans' eastern borders is connected with what happens on its Mediterranean borders and vice versa. The wound that Russia's wars of aggression against Ukraine has inflicted on the rules-based international system still produces the stabilizing effects well beyond the war borders. And like a domino, this contributes to reigniting or detonating other crisis hotbeds. We have witnessed this in the Middle East, and not only there. That is why we will continue to stand by Ukraine and to strive for this war to immediately come to an end, because our security and freedom depend on restoring the force of law over the law of the strongest. And speaking of Europe and freedom, I believe it is nothing more European than a people willing to risk everything to defend its own freedom and independence. Every day, the heroism and tenacity of the Ukrainian people reminds us what Europe is and what the deepest aspect of our common identity is: freedom. We defend our freedom and we want peace. Volodymyr and the Ukrainian people want peace, and we newly witnessed it yesterday. The world saw who was really willing to sit at a negotiation table and who was not. And this shows also with respect to certain propaganda who looks for peace and who doesn't. At the same time, we must not interpret what happened yesterday as a setback and throw in the towel. Instead, we must insist with determination to finally achieve an unconditional ceasefire and a true peace agreement with serious security guarantees for Ukraine, and we are absolutely ready to do what is needed to reach this goal. However, colleagues, I do agree with many things that Eddie said in his speech, but building a new Europe in a new world, as advocated by this session, means, in my opinion, before talking about what we have to do, starting from our very foundations and reflecting mainly on who we are. None of us is interested in strengthening any form of union amongst European states, if not for protecting what we are and what we want to continue to be in the coming decades and centuries in such a fast-changing world. Because if Europe sometimes proves unable to face the great challenges, it is no one else's fault. It is our responsibility. And it is up to us to choose whether to go along a decline or instead fight it. And if we decide to fight it, first of all, we need to regain awareness, which is mainly awareness of who we are, what the European civilization is, of the great achievements it has accomplished across the history of humankind. A synthesis of values resulting from the encounter between Greek philosophy, Roman law, Christian humanism, a synthesis of values that allowed European civilization to conceive a world in which the person is central, life is sacred, and human beings are free and equal. A civilization that respects the identities of the others without denying its own, and that builds peace where instead others see destruction. We are this. We are this before everything. And I think we have, first of all, to remember it every day if we want to build a Europe up to the role received from history. Thank you.